Hi, I'm Nandini Bapat. I am an actress and a writer, screenwriter, TV, all the things. And then I'm working on producing and still learning about the director side of it, but pretty much the multi hype in it across the board.
As you know, we're all supposed to be at this point, right, in
Yeah,
the entertainment industry.
it's so bad. It's like, hey, can you do everything? Can you be the crew? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, I'll just make a movie by myself. It's fine.
Hey, you know what? You're like 2 degrees away from just being your own production company, so
Yeah,
you're super
basically.
close.
Yeah.
When did all this start for you? That's always a really fun story to get started on. When did you find
Yeah.
your love for the performing arts? We'll put it that way.
See, that's the thing. It's a very, I think it's a graduated process because I always loved stories. I learned how to read when I was 3, and my parents like dumped me in a library and said go, and I would read books all the time, and I was a big reader, and so fell in love very early. I think when my aunt likes to tell me a story when I was a kid, apparently I told her I wanted to be an actress. um I don't remember this, but apparently I did. And then when I was in middle school, I did my first play and I loved it. And I had, I loved the theater and it was great. And my mom was like, it's too distracting. You can't do this because you need to get into good college. And I was like, oh. So I did like 2 plays and then that was it. And I had to do AP classes and all the all the things that, Tiger Mom wants you to do, and could not do plays when I was in high school. So, I went off. I was a good Indian girl. I went to school for science, got my bachelor's degree. And then after I graduated, I was like, I don't know what I want to do because the degree that I ended up getting was not something I wanted to keep pursuing. I studied animal science, and being a vet was too depressing. I didn't want to put down animals for a living. Big animals. It was the same thing. Like people just put down animals. It's really sad. When they could pay money to fix them. But anyway, that's a side thing. And I didn't want to do research because I liked people, and so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then on a whim, I basically said I want to. Well, my uncle was dying of cancer, and I was like, last thing I want to do before I die, I wanted to make sure that I was like bucket list. I was like, I want to be on screen. I want to do something in film and TV. And so I think I went on like a Google search deep dive, found a forum, found a place where I could basically be an extra, signed on to do a music video. And in the summer of 2012, on a sugar rush, I realized I love filmmaking because it was a middle of the night music video shoot, unpaid, background extra, cattle call kind of thing. We were there all night from like 9 p.m. all the way until like 5 or 6 in the morning. They were shooting in this dank little bar. On the second floor was crafty, and they had an entire table full of sugar. And you can like imagine how like today I'm like I would never step foot on a set like that, but like, that was like my first experience. And I remember standing on the second floor because I wasn't filming, I was waiting for DP and everybody were setting up and they were doing all their thing. And I remember looking down and watching the crew set up for this next shot. And they had a track and it was kind of circling around the bar, and they were setting up the dolly and practicing the movements. I was like, the energy in the room, like it went from the floor all the way up to me and like filled me. And I was like, it's hour 9 and I am not tired. And I could go for another 9 hours. Like I was like, I am so filled up inside. And I was like, if I could have that feeling for the rest of my life, I will never have an ounce of regret. And so that was it. That was the moment I fell in love with filmmaking.
See, and somebody could say, "Oh, it was just the sugar." No, the sugar made it glow maybe 20%, but the
Yeah.
rest of it is just sheer adrenaline, like,
Yes.
"What is this?"
Yes. I was watching all these people and they're talking in all this weird lingo, and it somehow makes sense, and they're all like all these people coming together to make one thing. It's just it's mind blowing. It's like, you have so many people, so many different departments, and they all come together to make something that, you know, a person, millions of people, tens of millions of people, billions of people watch. and enjoy. And it tells a story. I can't. It's just it's amazing.
I love seeing, like, the wave of emotion rush to the guests on this show where they talk about their first experience. Well, what was it like? I mean, after that, you have this crazy revelation.
Mhm.
You go home, maybe sleep for a couple hours, and then do you decide the next day this is what you wanna do? Like, how did you tell your folks that this is what you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah, that was
do?
complicated. So I don't know that I had decided 100%. I mean, I knew that I wanted more. It's kind of like your first high, you take a drug and you're like, "Woo!" and then you want more. And so I was like, I knew I wanted another experience. I didn't know if this was going to be a forever thing or if it was a sugar rush or if it was just this one-time thing, but I knew I wanted more. So I went and, basically started the process, what everybody does when they have no idea what to do, Google. And I looked up, how to be an actor and, found all of these, pay sites which are charging you $20 so you can see all of their listings of every job available, which were 90% non-union, unpaid or slightly paid job, hourly wage thing. Um, I did some background work and I got a job working for an acting studio. There was an acting coach who needed an assistant, and he was basically giving class in exchange for work, and it was part time, few hours a week. So I could fit that between grad school, which my parents were making me do, and this. And I told my parents that I was interested in acting, and my dad was like, "Meh, let your mother deal with it." And my mother was basically like, if you get your graduate degree, I will not bother you. You can do whatever you want. And so I said, okay. And so I went and got my master's degree, did that in 2 years. And then I said, okay, master's degree is done. No complaining, not a word. And she's held up her end of the bargain. In fact, they're both very, very proud. But, I mean, it's fair. It's fair. So, you know, I, uh, I started working for that acting coach, and I'm glad I did because I could have kind of been stuck in that process for 2 years, unpaid, non-union, crappy background gigs, trying to make my big break. But instead, I got to work with a coach who was like, "This is actually how you do it, where you study, you go to class, you train, and you do this over and over and over again." And so, I mean, that was probably the best piece of advice that I got from that experience. And then left the studio about 4 months later, but I did learn something at the end of it. I went to find another studio that was a better fit for me. Found that, started working, paying money, and actually paying for class at a place that I think worked better for me. I've been there for about 10 years now. I've been there forever. It's so long. I like the studio. I like the studio. I like the people. I'm very much set in my ways, but I uh I enjoy it. And so I've been working with them for a really long time. And then I did the background while I was in grad school because it was easy to like fit it around class. And it was, some money. My parents were supporting me a little bit like halfway while I was in school. And so that was nice. And then when I graduated, I got an actual job, and started doing that to pay the bills. But by then, I'd kind of established myself, and I was auditioning, and I had representation and everything like that. So it kind of worked out in terms of pacing.
Yeah,
Does that answer
God,
your question?
yeah, it's so much information to unpack in the
Yeah.
best of ways. I'm curious, what were you doing as a day job when you said you finally nailed a day job, to
Yeah.
kinda get things going?
Um,
What was
I
that job?
I teach. I am a high school
Oh,
teacher. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
have plenty of, material to
Oh,
pick off of.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's I started subbing because I was doing background, and then I met somebody on set, who's also a background actor, who was like, "If you can't get background work, substituting is actually a really good way to get work." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I started subbing, and I actually didn't totally hate it, and I was like, "All right, this isn't bad." And then the subbing job led to a full-time job after my graduate degree, and then it was just like, "Okay." and I worked part-time for a bit, I worked full-time then later, and it ended up working out. And thanks to technology and self-tapes, it makes it work. I can tape my auditions after work and fit it around my school schedule because I've got vacations and holidays and all that kind of stuff. So it somehow it all clicks together.
Yeah, there's a bright side to a post-pandemic world. It's that ability to
Mhm.
not have to, well, I live in Denver where the traffic isn't nearly as bad,
Oh,
but, if you're in
yeah,
Los Angeles, trying to find time between work and then getting to your audition slot at, I don't know,
yeah.
6 p.m. or something is probably a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely a nightmare, and it's like, you spend more time in the car than you do actually in the room doing the work, and so it saves so much time, it's so much easier, less stressful, and usually there's at least a 12-hour, 16-hour turnaround time, so it's enough time to get home,
Mm.
tape it, send it off, and I finish at 4, so I also get, like, a little bit of extra time, before, so I'm home and I can tape it and send it by 6, it's not a problem, so
Oh, it's wonderful. And,
yeah.
with your love of this industry going all the way back to childhood, do you have, I don't want to say an idol, but like somebody you admire their career? Do you have somebody in mind that maybe you look up to as
Mm,
far as they did this, they did that? That's a
mhm.
cool turn. Maybe I'll try that if I can. Do you have anybody in mind when you think of that?
Um, you know, there's so many people that are so talented and so amazing that I feel like I pull from people I see, people that I'm inspired by. So it's not just like one person, but it's like nuggets from a bunch of different people. Like I love that Mindy Kaling like made South Asians cool, made South Asians a thing in Hollywood, And I like that she does pull from her own life and her own experience, but that's what makes it specific and authentic and interesting. So, I try to embrace that when I'm like telling my stories or, telling versions of my stories. I really admire like Issa Rae, who like made her own production company and was like, I'll make my own stuff, and if you're not ready to hire me, I'll make my own things and make it happen. And in that same vein, like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and like all of these other amazing, talented women who made their own stuff and are just going for it. I would say those are probably my biggest inspirations, particularly right now. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great inspirations to draw from, like,
yeah.
no doubt whatsoever. Uh, you brought up working in background and how that just lit this fire under you.
Mhm.
But I wanna talk about, your first official gig where you were
Okay.
being paid, you were cast, maybe you had a honey wagon or at some
Ooh,
point for some SAG jobs, it's like, "This is your part of the tent." "Okay,
yeah,
cool, it's fine."
yeah.
Uh, if you wouldn't mind, like, reflecting on that experience, how did that change
Mm,
compared to your extra experience? What was
sure.
that like for you?
Ooh, okay. Harken back. So my first gig was on Scream Queens. Uh, I'd been auditioning for a minute. And at the time it was like an audition maybe 2 once every month, which is a pittance compared to how much I do now. But you start somewhere, right? And so I was doing an audition here or there, and there was a new character for Scream Queens. Or sorry, yeah, it was a new character for the second season and I actually auditioned for the lead role and for that office. And then a few weeks later, I got called in for this like one liner, couple of lines, whatever, for the fourth episode of the second season. And I was bummed, but Kiki Palmer got the big role, so it is what it is. And she was much better than I would have been at the time. And so it was I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go in," and I went and I did it, and, I guess they loved it, and they booked me, and, Richard Hicks, props to that casting office because they gave me my first gig. Thank you guys very much. Um, and, I basically I went in, I did it, and then, I got the job, and I remember being so excited, "This is my big break," and all that kinda stuff. Told my mom, told my aunt, I was like, "Ah!" And then I go to set, and I feel like I'm being treated like a queen. Like, I mean, and it's just because they're so nice. It's like, in your background, you're like furniture that they're like verbally
Yes.
shoving into the corner, you know? But when you step on set and you're like, "Hi, my name is Nandini and I am this role. I'm frumpy girl number 2." They're like, "Thank you, welcome. Do you want a water? All right, here's your honey wagon. Please get changed into wardrobe. Do you want breakfast? We'll bring you breakfast." I was like, "I can go get breakfast. Just show me where to go." It's like, "No, we'll get you breakfast." And then they like take you to the makeup trailer and everyone's so friendly and they're like, "We're gonna do you up." And it was so different. We were on location in this little suburb area, and Emma Roberts was actually there, and she was filming something else. But I did not get to talk to her. She was just kind of, she was very in character and sunglasses and all, and I was like, oh, nope, not happening. Um, but they had me. They basically like I was there for a few hours. I mean, maybe a couple hours tops. I went in, got changed. They put me in hair and makeup. They got that whole thing done. They invited me to set. I'd never heard that before, but oh my God, that was so amazing. They walked me in, set me up, had me do it, and I did the worst fucking job I've ever done in my life.
What do you mean? What?
So overstimulated, like, oh my God, overwhelmed. What is all of this experience? Like, ah! And so they wanted me to cry on cue in this scene because we were supposed to do like this. You can see it if you watch the episode. It's like they have all the girls doing this thing where they all, thank you, Chanel, for like sending me this Halloween gift or something like that. And they wanted us to cry on cue. And the poor director had me do it like 2 or 3 times, could not get me to, I could not do it. I like tried. I was like, sense memory and like feel the emotions and trying to pull in everything I learned from class. And I just could not do it. I was too happy. I was like, I can't cry. I'm too happy. And they're like, cry because you're happy. I'm like, I don't do that. So I did the best that I could and I filmed it and I was out. And in the final take, I have medicinal maggots. 2 words is what ended up being my part. And so yes, that was my first job. But I had a great experience outside of not feeling like I performed well. It was really fun. It was really exciting. I'm pretty sure I probably cried that evening like, "No one's ever gonna hire me again." You know? The things you block out.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, once you set up, you're standing in front of the lights and everything, your mind could just blank. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, shit.
I
Okay.
I always find a way to have my sides, like, folded and in a pocket or hidden
Yes.
somewhere because 'cause I'm
Yes.
like, the moment but when they say, like, "Camera," I'm like, "Fuck, I don't remember my lines, what was the first line?" And I pull it out and look at it, I'm like, "Right, I've been memorizing this for 3 days, I got this, okay." Like, and then I just repeat it in my head over and over and over again, and the first couple takes are always so bad because I'm in my head and I'm just trying not to I'm like, "Please, God, don't let me forget these words."
I honestly think, like, the beauty in that and, I mean, you've definitely seen it with your resume, but when you see the main actors of this project flub lines and they're losing their like, it
Yeah,
humbles you to your core. Going,
yes.
"Okay, we're all human."
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So much. Until you of course, you step on set and the main actor is just like and you're like, "I'm the one screwing up, I'm so sorry."
They have their long, like, oneer of medical, terminology
Yeah,
through a monologue, and your line is, "Did you want your coffee?" And
yeah,
you can't
yeah. I'm like, did you want your coffee or should I get you your coffee or was it, do you want coffee with tea? It's like, you can't remember. It's like you say, "Do we want some coffee?" instead of you, and it's just like, what is happening right now? That happened on Good Girls because I had like 2 lines or something like that, and I flubbed it like the first 2 times, and, I got the intent, but I did not get the exact words,
Mhm.
and the poor scripty kept saying like, "No, it's this," and I'm like, they're gonna replace me with a background extra. Like, that's literally what was going through my head. I was like, "I'm gonna get replaced. I'm gonna be one of those stories where they were like, 'You can't do it. Go home. We're gonna have this person do it because they can do it.'" I'm like, that I was like, that was going through my head. I am a very insecure person, if you did not realize. I have major imposter syndrome.
You're not alone. We talk about that a lot on this show to the point of, like, the whole, like, being replaced
Yeah.
by an extra is, "Oh, yeah, and that person becomes the next Timothy Chalamet." And you're like,
Yeah.
"God damn it.
Damn it,
I
right?
had 2 syllables I had to say, and I couldn't
Yeah,
do it."
right?
But, I mean, with that, I mean, it comes with the territory, right? And
Yeah.
everyone has their own way of overcoming that, or when they go home to try and decompress after the, 16-hour day you probably had. So what helps you to relax and, let's not say forget about the day, but just, let it go. Let all these, like, minor things go so you can appreciate, "Oh, I was working with X, Y, and Z. This was a great day."
I think part of it is repetition. It's like be having I think when I first started, I had a really hard time calming down because it was like first job, second job, third job, like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. I think one big thing is actually having a day job and having a day job like being a high school teacher where you go to school and the kids treat you like shit. And you're like, it doesn't matter that I was on set with, I don't know, Christina Applegate. I'm just throwing out a thing, but like, it doesn't matter that I was with Christina Applegate yesterday, making this show. These kids don't know that. They're going to cuss at me either way. They're going to treat me the same no matter what I do. And so having a life that's very grounded, like I don't live in Hollywood. I live out of the city. I grew up in LA. So I knew when I moved closer to the city, like, so I could be here. I was like, I don't want to live in the rat race. I want to be outside where I live with normal people who are not actors. And most of the people that I meet are dentists or, professionals in other jobs or whatever. And, they're housewives or they're whatever. So that you don't like have a complex. You you remember like I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy groceries like everybody else. When I fill in gas at the gas pump, I'm a normal human being. I feel like that kind of grounds me and reminds me like, hey, I can let all that go because I'm just a normal person. So I think that's one. Two, of course, is repetition. The more you do it, the easier it is to let it go. Um, and I think just in terms of like that day, I think it kind of goes back to like my origin story, if you will. I get so hyped up and so filled with energy after working on set that for the most part, I'm not like jittery. I'm just like content, calm, happy, I'm awake. Um like there are days where they are long and I'm exhausted and I come home like I remember I was working on Party Down and it was like 12, 14-hour days. I was so tired when I came home. I mean, honestly, I just do a routine. I shower because makeup and hair, there's hairspray usually somewhere. And, shower, get into my pajamas. Sometimes I'll watch anime or I'll read a book or I'll, do something. I'm usually not hungry because they feed you like a stuffed pig. But,
It's so
but,
true.
yeah. Sometimes I'll do that, and if I'm not going to set the next day or working, I will, have a glass of wine or something like that, celebrate. I do I try to find one little way to celebrate, like, "Hey, I've done this amazing thing and it was so fun." And one other thing I like to do is I like to catalog mentally. I think it's very easy to forget what the day was, what it was like, I think, one big thing for us is that we're all on this journey and it's so easy to move on to the next job, the next audition, the next thing, the next thing. Partly because we want to let go of what we were doing, like we were talking about earlier. But secondly, it's like it's a gig that we're always looking for our next gig is how acting is. But I think stopping to appreciate what you've done and what you've accomplished that day is really helpful. And I also don't wanna forget. I'm a very forgetful person. I wanna remember that day and remember what was awesome. So I try to remember, like, what was the cool thing that somebody said to me, or what was the thing that inspired me? Because everyone's always so nice, and they're like, "Oh, I remembered your audition," or "I remember, I think you did amazing in that scene," or, whatever. People lavish you with praise. It's very sweet. I feel very self-important when I'm done with the day on set. Um, but, it's like I try to remember that stuff when especially my insecurity and my imposter syndrome and all the other things pop up, because then I can say, "Hey, remember that, this person that you worked with, this huge A-list actor that you got to work with, said that you were awesome. Why are you putting yourself down?" So, yeah, that was a very long answer, but I hope that
No,
helped.
no, it was perfect, and with that, I wanna hear your party story. Is there something, I mean, Party Down's one of my favorite shows of all time, and, it's just incredible to work with people like that within that story, so it doesn't have to be Party Down, but
Yeah.
anything that's happened throughout your career or
Mhm.
during your career that stands out so immensely, you would easily recant it amongst friends at a party.
Okay. You mentioned this before, and I have totally forgot to think about it.
We've been kind of busy talking about other
Yeah.
things, so I don't blame you.
Let's see. Thinking back to my credits and the things that I've done. And, okay, I'm gonna say Silicon Valley because one of the nicest people in the world, Zach Woods. So first day, and this is, I mean, literally my first day working with them. I had to go on set to do costuming and wardrobe because they had a fitting, and because they were doing some matching with like a prop on set, and so they needed me there to do this thing. Anyway, I wasn't even filming, but it was my first day on set. I was, this was my first recurring role, so I was super excited. It was more than two lines. Well, actually, it was no lines, but it was like I was going to be there for a bit. And so I go in, I do the wardrobe thing, and I'm on my way out, and we bump into Zach and uh, his co-star, and we and they were having lunch, and the AD was like, "This is Nandini. She's going to be bored." And Zach was immediately like, "Grab, yank. I want to talk to you." And so I sat there for like an hour and a half or 2 hours or something like that. In his entire lunch thing and almost an hour afterwards. And Zach basically gave me an interview. It was like everything about me. He wanted to know everything. And I found myself just spilling everything to him, like answering every question. And it was the wildest thing I've ever experienced, the nicest thing I have ever had anyone do. I mean, this is somebody who is working right now. He's on set, he's at a job, and he takes the time to come talk to me, who's a person that at the time I was only there for 2 episodes and I was not gonna say a word. And I was like, "Okay, this is very sweet." Um, and I got to know him really well. It was the first time I really connected with a co-star on set that we actually got to talk, because all the ones I'd done before were all just very like, come in, say your line, leave, you know? And so this was the first time I really got to connect with people and get to know the crew and the cast, and because I kept coming back and, felt like I had a place there. And, also the first time I ever got to use one of those producer trailers, which are nice.
What? Okay.
Yeah. It was like, somebody would have, like, I was assigned to a honey wagon, but, like, when they had an extra producer trailer open, they would let me use it, instead of the honey wagon, because they were like, "Well, we have the space open, you might as well use it." I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Damn,
Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, there were a lot of really nice firsts, and I would have to say that, just how warm and friendly he was, made a big difference in how comfortable I felt on set. I did not forget any lines, not that I had any, but, it just felt very comfortable, very nice. And yeah, I didn't feel as nervous because I felt like I had a friend on set, you know?
That is so cool.
Mm.
Especially, I mean, of all people, it has to be him, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. He is that sweet as he is on the show. He is that sweet in real life, like, probably 10 times more, you know?
Which is crazy because I feel like with that being true, they've written so much for that character based on interactions with him.
Yes, yes, 100%,
Well,
100.
with that experience and the dozens of other people, hundreds that you've worked alongside the last couple of years, do you have a piece of advice that you could instill upon our listeners that you've personally hung on to?
Yeah, let's see. Don't take any of it personally, is I think would be the biggest thing. I mean, look, again, this is coming from an insecure imposter syndrome person, right? Um, I am constantly in my head about like, was that performance good? Was that a good audition? Could I have done it better? Could I da 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 da? And it is a hamster wheel of nonsense. Um, but one thing that I have, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You can't just tell yourself and it's going to magically fix. But take a breath, meditate. I mean, I hated when people told me to do that, but it does work. And it's not really meditation itself. It's just breathe, focus on your heartbeat, focus on something that's repetitive without a whole lot of thought involved, and be kind to yourself because it's a hard industry and it's nothing's ever going to work right. Nothing's going to you might think that a project's going to happen and it never does. Don't suspend your life for acting or for the industry because quite frankly, I remember that I missed vacations with family and I didn't do things that I could have done and go on trips and spend money, blah blah blah, because I was always waiting for the audition that would come or the big break, or somebody would like say something like, "Hey, are you available here?" And then I wouldn't hear from that production office for 2 months. And it'd be like, "Should I still leave that open or can I go on my vacation?" And it would be stuff like that where it's like there's, an avail check but no offer and then you're just waiting and you don't hear anything. It's just don't suspend your life. Like obviously, in that case check with them before you schedule anything, but just like I guess, live your life, be who you are. Don't take it personally because it's really not about you. It's usually about a million other things. People care more about what's going on inside and in their own life than about what you're doing. Um, I think, especially as a woman of color, we tend to be apologetic and not take up space. So take up space is one of my biggest advice. Like I'm still trying to practice doing that and get better at it, but um, own who you are, own the space that you take up, because somebody's always going to try and take your space from you, and you don't want to be doing that yourself. No, don't make it easy for them. Yeah, there's a lot of little pieces of advice in there. Just be you. Be you. You're awesome. You're amazing. You could do it. Go for it. Is what I would
That is
say.
going to be like a 5-second short or reel, whatever we call them now. That
Yeah.
just do it. You are, but you're awesome. No, I
Yeah.
I appreciate every single word of that. That was fantastic, and I always like hearing that stuff too. Because as an actor myself, I just need to hear it. It
Yes.
just the sound helps.
Yes.
And as we wrap up with that, is there anything you want to give a shout out or have us promote within this episode that you really believe in, whether it's a project you're a part of or maybe an organization, a charity, anything in particular that comes to mind?
Um, yeah, I would love to. I mean, if you haven't checked it out, my episodes on Mythic Quest and Party Down are premiered earlier this year. You can check that out. And I'd like to promote Women of Color Unite and South Asian Women in Entertainment. They're amazing groups that helped me connect with a lot of people in this industry. Women of Color Unite is for generally women of color, and you can sign up on the website. It's free. They have so many opportunities for women of color to connect with other women of color in the industry, classes and events and things like that. They really help a lot of people do a lot of amazing things. And then South Asian Women Entertainment and South Asians in Entertainment is like their Facebook groups. My friend Bhavani Rao created and co-created respectively the groups, and they help empower and promote South Asians in the industry. So if you're South Asian, you should join us. And if you're not, you should check us out because we've got, some of the big groups of people. I mean, most of the people that I know in South Asian who are South Asians in Hollywood are in this group. So you want to find us, we're here.
Do you hear that, listeners? If you fit
Yeah.
that demographic, join the group,
Yes.
especially if you work out there. If it
Mhm.
just, yeah, that's crazy important. No, thank you for sharing that. I had a blast chatting with you. I know we're running low on time. I want to wrap this episode up so you can get out of here and, go enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, it's a Friday, by the way, when we're recording this. So, she's giving up an hour of her time on a
Oh, that's
Friday.
okay. Don't worry about it. Oh gosh.
Um, no, this was a complete pleasure chatting with you. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect, and, I have one more thing
Sure.
before we wrap this up.
Okay.
It is what we call an awkward goodbye.
Okay.
I have to preface it by asking, have you ever seen the movie Wayne's World?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
Okay, very common. I'd say
Yeah.
maybe 20 guests I've had,
Okay.
nowhere I've seen it. But there's a scene where, essentially 2 members of, this public access show, it's been bought out by corporate.
Okay.
Corporate taints the hell out of it, and the lead guy walks off the set. He leaves
Right.
his co-host there just in a panic and kinda shaking, doesn't really know what to do. So what I'll do is I'll give you a silent 3, 2, 1 countdown, and when I point, give me your best verbal awkward goodbye. Does that sound good?
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Here we go in
All right.